The following is a presentation of IMG College. Live from Brother Jimmy's on Easton Avenue in New Brunswick, this is the Kyle Flood Show. Your chance to talk Rutgers football with the head coach of the Scarlet Knights.
Rutgers with 9 on the line. They're coming and blocked. They got it. He's going to go. Sideline 20, 10. Adios, compadres.
To be a part of the show, call toll-free 855-FLOOD-44. That's 855-FLOOD-44. Now we go inside Brother Jimmy's in New Brunswick. Alongside Coach Kyle Flood, here's Chris Carlin.
And Eric LeGrand. Welcome once again, everybody, to another edition, week 3 of the Kyle Flood Show, live from Brother Jimmy's here in downtown New Brunswick. We're getting set for the Scarlet Knights facing Eastern Michigan this coming Saturday at 1 o'clock. Rutgers now at 1-1 on the season following their 38-0 win over Norfolk State. Coach, Eric, great to see you both as usual.
Good to be 1-0 again.
Yeah, good to be back here again.
Now, before we get going, we should take a moment and reflect for a moment because we certainly are on a very important day today, 12th anniversary of the attacks of 9/11. And this past week, Coach, had an opportunity at High Point Solution Stadium to welcome several first responders. We had several groups of first responders come out to the game this past week, and this is certainly a day that we always take a moment and reflect upon those we lost 12 years ago.
For me, it will always be a day that we will not forget to commemorate and remember the people that were lost that day and the people who continue every day to be the first responders, to be the first line of defense, to protect us against a lot of different things, and to have a brother who works for the NYPD Emergency Service Unit and has been on the job for 22 years, and a brother-in-law who works for the FDNY and has been on that job for over 12 years now. You know, it's certainly close to home for me. So it was exciting to have first responders from really New York and New Jersey in our stadium that day, and have a chance to honor them, on the week of 9/11.
And it's crazy how 12 years has passed now. I'll never forget where I was when it happened. I was in 6th grade music class as it happened, and I'll never forget my mom when I came home that day, because my mom didn't take me out of school, and just telling me what a tragedy it was, because I understood the World Trade Center as the Twin Towers. I didn't know it was actually called the World Trade Center at the time, and when my mom said that the Twin Towers went down and we could see the smoke from my house, it was just like, wow, Mom, why did this happen? I was such a young kid at the time, like, why, how did this happen? And just how sad it was for everyone watching on TV. I was watching the live coverage today of that day when it went down, and it just still strikes you as it just happened today.
And you were part of a big event earlier today, were you not?
Yes, I was. I was at the Kenneth Fitzgerald charity event, and they do that every year. They raise money for the fund that they have with the 9/11, but also for celebrities charities that they give back to by doing trades, going back and forth on the phone. And I got to do a big trade with Facebook today, I believe, for over $500,000 that they donated to one of the charities. So it's good that they still reach back to that and bring out all those celebrities. And I had a great time up there, and just being in the city that they still every year I get to go, and it just still strikes me right at heart from that day it happened.
Well, there's no doubt the memorial in the city is a beautiful way to remember the way they have it set up in Lower Manhattan, and certainly our thoughts and prayers are with the families of those who lost family and friends back on September 11th of 2001. On to some more happier thoughts, and certainly this week is a big week, not just because of Rutgers trying to go 1-0 this week, as you talk about, but they will be retiring the number of Eric LeGrand at halftime this coming week at High Point Solution Stadium.
Oh, I didn't know that, Chris.
His phone's been ringing off the hook. I saw a stack of tickets go into your pocket earlier, so you got a few people coming to the game. Coach, just first of all, when you all decided that you were going to go about this, take us into the process of making this decision and really what Eric continues to mean to this program.
I can't ever talk about this subject without starting it this way. People who ask me, what is Eric like? And I always say, well, he's as positive a person as you ever meet. He's as upbeat a guy as you'd ever be around. He's You love being around him. He's like a people magnet. And then I have to stop myself and explain that that's the way he was from the moment I met him. It had nothing to do with that day up at Giant Stadium. And to me, Eric embodies everything we want in a Rutgers football player, from his work ethic to his attitude to his determination. And it's only fitting that after 144 years, his jersey be the first one that we retire.
It's amazing that it's going to be just a terrific atmosphere this coming Saturday. All right, so as you're getting ready for it, tell me what you're thinking about as it approaches 3 days from now.
I'm usually never nervous for anything, but I already tell everybody I don't like surprises, so they tell me they got stuff in store for me, and I don't know.
We have a few surprises.
And I'm saying that gets me nervous because how I react to it. Then
if you're going to go on stage and speak at the ESPYs, then you'll be just fine.
So I'm definitely excited, just to address the crowd. And like I said to Coach when he first told me about it, like, wow, Coach, like, thank you. This is honestly means the world to me, my family too. Like, you didn't get to speak to them, but they're just in like awe how this is all happening, and I can't wait for that day. And it's really going to be a special day because I get to thank all the Rutgers fans and everything that I have done and all the sacrifice I put into this game. And now going to have my numbers up in the rafters, and then now I get to also bring out a little bit with my foundation. I'm not really going to bring it out now, but I'm going to save it for a halftime ceremony that I really want to bring out because it's very important.
And this is not just about retiring Eric's number. It's also realizing that the number's going to get unretired when you get out of that chair.
There's no doubt. And that was the first thing I said to Eric after I told him what we were going to do. I think that's critical because I remember one of the first times I spoke to Eric afterwards, and I've heard him say it on a number of occasions that he's going to go back to MetLife. He's going to get up off that same spot. He's going to walk off that field the way he always wanted to. And there's no doubt in my mind that that'll happen. And that will be the happier day for me because that's when I get to unretire the 5-2, and I may wear it out for the next game myself.
And that's why it is so important when I address the crowd, because without their help, I'm not going to be able to do it. So I can't wait to address that crowd on Saturday.
It's going to be electric. There is no doubt about it. This coming Saturday, if you don't have your tickets yet, what are you doing? It is a 1 o'clock kick. Tickets.scarletnights.com or 866-445-GO-RU. Get your tickets as Rutgers retires the number 52 of Eric LeGrand this week, and we'll talk more about that on Saturday during the broadcast.
Yeah.
Now, let's get into a little bit of the fact that you got a win this past week, 38-0 over Norfolk State, first win of the season. Tell me about some of the goals that you had going into that game in terms of just maintaining a little bit more consistency than you had during Fresno.
I think, if I just go through each phase of the game and just restate some of the things I said during the week last week. On offense, I wanted to see us run the ball more consistently, and I think we were able to do that. On defense, I wanted to see us tackle better, and I think we did that as well. And then on special teams, I thought we could just overall be more consistent in our efforts, and I think we were. And I think that started with a guy by the name of Nick Marsh as our punter, who really he had a special day, 5 punts inside the 22, inside the 5. I mean, that's a hell of a day now, and it certainly will help you play good defense in a hurry when you can back that team up inside the 5.
And Nick, by the way, is the Rutgers Touchdown Club Player of the Week. With that accomplishment, a terrific job by Nick. Every week, for fans who are curious, members of the Touchdown Club vote on their site every week, and they're supplied with an offense, defense, special teams player by the coaching staff. For more information on that, visit RutgersTDClub.com. You can be part of that, but certainly he did a phenomenal job. How about running the football? You talked about wanting to do it more consistently. You had the big plays at Fresno State, 273 yards on the ground, and I think maybe a more impressive number, 5 yards a carry. Yeah,
absolutely, and that was probably what I was most pleased about. And we had a chance to hand it to 4 different running backs, and I thought they all did good things at different times. PJ certainly continues to impress. I think Savon got better from game 1 to game 2. So I think we're moving in the right direction at running back. We've got more than one running back we think we can win the game with, and that's critical as you go through a season. Last year we needed 2. Certainly this year we're going to need at least 2.
And, Coach, how important do you think it was to get a W in the column? You look at the season as a one-game schedule, of course, but you think about it, having the loss to Virginia Tech last year, then the Fresno State, and then Louisville before the Virginia Tech loss. It's been a while since there was a W in the column. How do you think that boosts up the team and the W finally get back out there and get on the roll again?
I was trying to block those out of my mind, Eric. I appreciate you reminding me of some of those games.
Coach,
no, I think it is important. I think in a season where you only guaranteed 12 games, it's important every week to go out and do everything you can to be 1-0. And I think we've done that twice. Now, we've only been successful once. So it becomes even more critical now. We go out again this week against a good Eastern Michigan team and do it again.
Paul James named to the American Athletic Conference honor roll with 119 yards, 3 touchdowns. Leads the league in rushing at 151 yards per game through 2 games. You mentioned Savon Huggins with 96 yards. And Gary Nova, 12 out of 21, 150 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. But really, it was very clear, and not just in the second half, your focus was going to be on running the football. And with 57 attempts, I think, on the day, how about the consistency of the offensive line in that regard?
Yeah, I was pleased. I think we took another step in the right direction. We certainly are not where I think we'll be, hopefully, by the end of the year. But if we're making progress every week, we're going to have a chance to get better. And as we get better, we're going to have a chance to win a lot of games.
With running the ball that many times, how do you keep the receivers focused and ready and their hands warm when it's time to catch those balls?
I think we've got unselfish players. I think they look at that first game and they say, okay, hey, here's one where we got a chance to catch quite a few, and they know there's going to be games like that, and they know there's going to be games like Norfolk and probably everything in between. So each week they just have to be ready to do their job and be unselfish. And the same thing with the running backs. There may be a game they have to protect a little bit more. That's okay. There may be a game we play in a little bit more 11 personnel than 21, so Michael Burton may not play as many plays. That could happen too. And I think if you have unselfish players who ultimately their goal is for the team to win, those things are never an issue.
It's interesting you brought that up, Eric, because an article came out this afternoon about Karan Pratt blocking downfield. The receivers, in terms of the blocking game, how big of a factor are they right now, and are you pleased with where they're at in that regard? Because it's something that doesn't get talked about a lot.
I think if you look at the running back stats for the first couple of games here, PJ's got a 65-yard run, Savon's got a 20-yard run, Justin Goodwin's got a 30-yard run. Those are things that only happen if you're getting blocks down the field. It's hard to make everybody miss. So you maybe make one guy miss, but you better get some help from the receivers down the field. Karan Pratt is as unselfish, team-oriented a player as we have on our team. Over the last couple of years, he's been a very valuable piece, although I don't know that everybody knows that. And now he's a little bit more in the spotlight, and he's had a great training camp leading up to the first 2 games. He's performing at a high level, and he's going to have a great season for us.
And now, as we're talking about blocking, we can't go without talking about Michael Burton, the great job he's doing. Can you talk a little bit more about what type of person he is and how he handles himself on and off the field?
Michael's critical. It's been well stated and chronicled that when we lost Michael last year, it hurt us, and it really showed up down the stretch a little bit. We didn't run the ball as well as we could have. I think the only people more pleased than me to have Michael back and fully healthy were the tailbacks, because they know what it's like to have Michael out in front, and you watch some of those plays that we ran last week, and you see Michael Burton out there making the block that springs them to that go where the runs go from 4, 5, 6 yards to 10, 12, 15, 20 yards. And when you have a fullback who can do that, and is still a threat to run the ball, and is still a threat to catch the ball, and contributes on special teams, you got a really valuable guy.
And how about the fact that your starting backfield right now are both guys who were preferred walk-ons when they came to Rutgers? That's pretty remarkable, and it's not as if it's been out of need, it's been out of performance. These guys have been terrific.
Absolutely, and we have a history of being able to produce that, and I'm sure it started before Gary Brackett. I don't know if I'm as familiar with
Sean O'Hara.
Sean O'Hara, sure. Gary, Sean O'Hara, and then guys like Brandon Reichart, a guy like Howard Barbieri, Michael Burton, P.J. James. I'm trying to think who if I'm missing anybody else, but we certainly have. Oh, Ramel Meekins, absolutely great nose guard, future captain. Eric LeGrand's idol, and he's so we've had a long line of tremendous walk-ons, and when you recruit those players, they're special people because they're generally turning down money at other places to get that opportunity to play at a great school like Rutgers.
Do you see a chip on their shoulder when they come into training camp, or that kind of develops more as time goes on?
I think certain players have a chip on their shoulder. I don't know if that necessarily correlates to the scholarship part. But I think that the players that are willing to turn down scholarships maybe at what would be perceived as lower-level schools, they have an air of confidence about them that they just know if given the opportunity, they're going to show everybody what they can do and how well they can perform, and they're certainly going to get the opportunity at Rutgers.
We want you to be a part of the program tonight. We have 3 ways that you can do that. You can give us a call at 855-FLOOD-44. That's 855-356-6344. You can also tweet us at @RFootball. We've got a couple of questions that we'll get to here in just a few moments. And if you're in attendance here at Brother Jimmy's in New Brunswick, I see plenty of Scarlet here. Come on up to our microphone, our man Jimmy right here, and get your question in for the coach, and we'll get you not only on the air but on camera as well. Defensive side, a couple of things real quick, and Eric will be happy about this. Defensive line, 2 guys that really jumped out early. Certainly, Darius Hamilton had a big day, 1.5 tackles for loss. Al Page, later in the game, 1.5 sacks. Your thoughts?
I think Darius has played at a very high level through 2 games, and it doesn't surprise me. We knew when Darius came to Rutgers that he was a special player. He played for us as a true freshman, which on the D-line is not easy to do, and he did it, and he got bigger and stronger and faster in the offseason, did an excellent job, and has really raised the level of his game significantly. So I think he's got a good year ahead of him. And Al did some good things in that 4th quarter that we're very pleased about, and he got the opportunity to do that. And now he jumped off sides a couple times too. We weren't too pleased about that, but I think we've got that corrected. And but Al's a big, strong, physical athlete, and somebody that's going to play a lot of football here.
Going into the games, do you have your set rotation on the defensive line on who is going to play, or is it kind of a feel-out matter in this type of situation? Who's going to be able to spark and have that spark for you when they go out there on that field?
With the players that we know are available, we have the set rotation, and then there's a first, as you know, there's a first and second down rotation, then there's a third down rotation, and you try and get your best pass rushers out there for third down. So all those things are set, but certainly if somebody appears to be giving the other team trouble, you better keep them in there.
Marcus Thompson, 2nd straight week with a sack at rush end this year. What have you seen?
Marcus gets better and better. Now his 2nd year playing defensive line, and a guy that moved around in positions early in his career until we found the right spot for him. And he's really blossomed, and he has become one of the emotional leaders on that defense. And that's what we needed to have happen after you have such a strong senior class leave last year. We needed some people to fill that void, and guys like Jamil Morrell, guys like Marcus Thompson, they're filling that void.
How do you see the progression now of the defensive backs? I know it's their 2nd game, and a lot of people were you've replaced a lot of people in the backfield. How do you say that they're progressing so far leading into this 3rd game of the season?
I'm pleased with the way they're progressing. I don't know if I could say it's off the game tape because I don't know that they were challenged the way I think they're going to be challenged this week and as we move forward. So I'm seeing the progress that I want to see in practice, and now as they get challenged in the games, those are really going to be the true tests.
855-FLOOD-44. That's 855-356-6344. We're going to take our first time out of the night. We've got a lot to get to, more to talk about with Saturday with the retirement of Eric LeGrand's number 52. Plus, we're going to talk a little bit later about a former Scarlet Knight who is making an impact, but not on the football field, on the baseball diamond. That's coming up. Stay with us. This is the Kyle Flood Show.
I'd love to.
Thank you. What happens now?
Go. Get out of here. It can't come back to you if you're standing next to it.
Thanks, Sophia. I'll wait for you, Diet Pepsi.
The only thing better than an ice-cold Diet Pepsi is a free ice-cold Diet Pepsi.
Love every sip at dietpepsi.com.
This is the Rutgers IMG Sports Network.
Oh, what up, Rutgers? Hey, guess what? I bet you didn't know you're about to have 3 different kinds of barbecue sauce all over that sweet, sticky mug of yours. Also, bet you didn't know, down south in North Carolina, we can actually make some of the best barbecue you've ever had in your ding-dong life. So come on down to Brother Jimmy's Barbecue and put some South in your mouth. Brother Jimmy's Barbecue, located at 5 Easton Avenue, New Brunswick, New Jersey. Or check us out at brotherjimmys.com. See y'all real soon.
When you shop an electronics big box store, do you feel like cattle? When you ask a question, do the salespeople look dazed and confused? Thought so. When you need a digital camera, come in and visit Unique Photo, New Jersey's only camera and video superstore. For over 60 years, customers have counted on Unique for price, quality, dependability, and service. Call 1-800-631-0300. That's 1-800-631-0300. Or visit us online at uniquephoto.com. Uniquephoto.com.
Unique Photo, we're all about you.
Back at Brother Jimmy's, downtown New Brunswick. It is the third week of the Kyle Flood Show, right here on the Rutgers IMG Sports Network and on ScarletKnights.com. A couple of different ways for you to be involved. You can tweet your question for the coach at rfootball, 855-FLOOD-44. That's 855-356-6344. Or if you're in person, come on up and ask the question to the coach directly. We've got a microphone set up right here near the set. Let's get to a couple of Twitter questions, though, Coach. This one from Eric Orlando, pointing to the penalties, 11 for 90 yards in the game. A similar issue at Fresno. How do you correct these?
We're not happy about any penalties, and I think it's something we work on every day. We have officials that practice every day. I do think when you take a little bit of a closer look at some of those, we had some guys in the game for the first time. A guy like Al Page gets an opportunity, jumps off sides twice. And again, there's no excuses for penalties. But when you have younger, less experienced players in the game, you know, some of those things are expected to happen, and then you don't tolerate them, and you correct them, and you move on.
Is that something that you have to gamble with, though, with young players, putting them out there, knowing that they're going to make a mistake, so you just have to live with it?
There's no doubt. I mean, you know, when you play younger players, there's going to be there's a little bit of a risk of inconsistency or a little bit risk of anxiousness, you know. But you have to play them through that. I think if they make a mistake and you yank them out of the game, I think you're sending the wrong message. Yeah. You want the players to feel comfortable out there so that they can just turn it loose.
Next question comes from Chris Waskey. What young freshman cornerback has shown the most in practice this week and looks to play a bigger role?
I think there's probably two freshman corners who are going to play a little bit of a bigger role as the year goes on, Nadir Barnwell and Anthony Chaffee. Now, that's if we don't count Ian Thomas, who's a redshirt freshman. I'm assuming we're just counting the true freshmen with that question. Ian's already starting for us, so he's certainly having an impact. But I think Nadir and Anthony are coming along, and they're getting a little bit better each day. Anthony's playing through a little bit of a hand issue. He's got a cast on his hand, so he's not at 100%, but he's still playing through it, and they're both making a little bit of a mark on special teams, and then they're going to make their mark a little bit on the sub packages and have the opportunity to earn more playing time as they go.
I was actually going to say, how important is that getting them out there on the special teams so they know, a little bit of experience out there as they go out there before they have a certain role on the defense or in those sub packages?
We will play our starters on special teams because I really feel that we can win games on special teams. We've proven that. But you also have to build your depth. And if you have all your starters on every special team, the game gets awfully long for those guys. So if you've got some talented younger guys who are still finding their role on offense and defense, but they can have an impact on special teams, it's a huge advantage. And we've had those guys in the past. Look no further than a guy like Leonte Carew, who spent last year playing special teams and did a tremendous job for us, and now has stepped into a role on offense and has continued to play a big role and is still playing some special teams for us.
And with Anthony, I was going to ask you about him anyway. Look, he had 2 tackles in the game, but I called his name several times on special teams in particular. Punt coverage, certainly, I believe, downed one of those inside the 10-yard line for Nick as well. You know, when you have a guy like that getting that experience, you touched on it a little bit, but it's got to mean a lot, I would think, in terms of growth of being able to get out there on the field that early. It
does, and I don't know if all the time the younger players in the program have a full appreciation for how important special teams is. Mm-hmm. And I think the older players in our program, and I'm looking at 2 guys right now sitting in front of me, eating Michael Burton and Lorenzo Waters. Those are 2 guys who certainly have significant roles on offense and defense, but also understand the importance of special teams and have roles on special teams. And when you got guys like that in the locker room talking to the younger players, and the younger players are seeing it on film, they buy in pretty quick.
How do some of these players now that are out there on special teams but not really in the role on the defensive offensive side, how do they accept their role during the week now being on the scout team?
I think they've done a good job. Now, Nadir and Anthony are like part-time on the scout team. Because they play some plays on the scout team, then they go back to the defense. So that's a little bit of a different situation. But I think they're unselfish guys. And having unselfish players, I don't think it's certainly part of it is recruiting the right people, which we do. But part of it is also having a culture of unselfishness. And that starts from the top down in the locker room with the older players in your program.
Next question on Twitter, Coach. Coach Flood, is the old fake fullback dive, halfback pitch play ever to be seen again? So, in other words, we have a wannabe offensive coordinator. I shouldn't say wannabe, inspired offensive coordinator, aspiring.
The suggestion box is outside my office. We had that play in the playbook. We took it out because Michael Burton said, hand me the ball. So now we took that play out.
Or did he just keep the ball, wouldn't give it up?
This could very possibly be the defensive coordinator from Eastern Michigan, who happens to be their head coach, trying to find out what our plays will be this Saturday.
We're going to talk a little bit about Eastern Michigan coming up in just a few moments. A couple of guys I wanted to ask you about as well, just overall through the last couple of games. Jeremy Deering at safety. I asked you about him last week, and it's interesting. It seems like against the two teams that you've faced, he hasn't necessarily had to be a focal point on the defensive side. How do you evaluate him, and is that a fair statement to make?
I think it is, and I think it's just the way that those teams have played. And the guys like Jeremy Deering, Lorenzo Waters, TJ Johnson, the first game challenged the undercoverage in the corners a little bit more. The second game, I don't know that the ball got thrown down the field as much. One of the most exciting things I think I saw in the game, though, was Jeremy Deering come up on a run play and really make a physical hit. And I knew Jeremy would do that. I wanted to see him do it in the game, and I saw him do that, and that made me feel really, really good about the direction we're headed.
As Lorenzo joined us in the crowd, Coach.
We do.
We have Lorenzo here. He's not paying attention right now, but I wanted to ask, how is he doing now, leading these young defensive backs and helping them out there when they need it?
Lorenzo's been critical. When you graduate or have 4 of your top 5 defensive backs move on to the NFL, well, the other one is Lorenzo Waters, and aside from being camera shy, he happens to be one heck of a safety. So he's but he is a special person along with being a special player and somebody that has been very, very important in terms of bringing some of these young defensive backs along, and even a new guy like Lou Toller, getting him acclimated to how we work and how we do things.
A couple of other guys, Coach. One guy that we got to see on the field for the first time this past week, Carlton Agudosi. And we talk about the receiver position being a very deep one. And I think he's a guy that kind of proves that. He's got the Brandon Coleman type size and certainly build to him. Fill us in a little bit about Carlton and how he could figure in here.
I'm going to tell Brandon you said that. No, I think Carlton is somebody that we have big plans for in our program, and he had a little bit of a hamstring pull that kept him out of the first game, and he's worked his way back. And he's one of those players who not only will help us at receiver, but will help us on special teams. He was on our second team kickoff this week, and I said to him right before one of his reps, I said, hey, this is somewhere you can really help us. And sure enough, he was the second guy down. So I think you're going to see Carlton take on a little bit bigger role in special teams as well as on offense. And he's exciting because you're right. He is a tall, he's a long, athletic guy and a competitor, a physical competitor. And those are the kind of guys you need to not only play offense, but to play special teams.
Do you have someone like him hang around Brandon Coleman, as everyone's always referring them to each other? You have him stick around this guy, he knows what he's doing?
I think a lot of those young receivers gravitate towards Brandon. And he's a leader on our team. He's one of our captains, is voted by his teammates. And I think the younger players in the program look at him and say, hey, if I can work the way Brandon Coleman works, I got a chance to have success.
855-FLOOD-44, your telephone number, 855-356-6344. Tweet us your questions. We're going to get into Eastern Michigan shortly as Rutgers prepares to try to go 1-0 this week and improve their overall record to 2-1. You like how I'm phrasing it now? Is that a little bit better?
I do.
1-0. You got on me a few times for that last year.
You guys in the media like to look ahead.
You guys.
We're focused on being 1-0.
We'll take a timeout. We've got more coming up. Stay with us. This is the Kyle Flood Show.
You may already know that AT&T is the nation's fastest 4G LTE network. And now independent research has confirmed that AT&T 4G LTE is also the most reliable. Whether you're connecting with family or getting the job done, you want a wireless network you can count on. AT&T, the nation's fastest and now most reliable 4G LTE network. Rethink possible. AT&T reminds you to never text and drive. It can wait.
Speed claim compares national carriers' average 4G LTE download speeds. Reliability claim compares data transfer completion rates on nationwide 4G LTE networks. 4G LTE not available everywhere.
And he hits Davis 40 yards downfield. Touchdown!
What a huge grab. Let's see that again in slow motion.
Going up, feet are in bounds, and he's pulling out his phone to get a free rate quote from Geico.
So he could save hundreds of dollars on his car insurance.
While he pulls down the ball with the other hand. Phenomenal.
That was one for the highlight reel, folks.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
This is the Rutgers IMG Sports Network.
For over 20 years in New York City, Brother Jimmy's Barbecue has been serving up great times as well as some of the best barbecue this side of North Carolina. And now Brother Jimmy's is opening in downtown New Brunswick on the corner of Easton Avenue and Wall Street. Planning a party? We have private rooms to suit all your needs. Or let Brother Jimmy's Catering bring the party to your office or home. So come on down to Brother Jimmy's and put some South in your mouth. For reservations and event information, visit us at BrotherJimmy's.com. Brother Jimmy's Barbecue, located at 5 Easton Avenue, New Brunswick, New Jersey. See y'all soon.
When it comes to football, you want your favorite players to stay healthy and on top of their game. Well, AmeriHealth New Jersey wants the same thing for its members. That's why AmeriHealth New Jersey has you covered with the answers you need to understand how the new healthcare law is changing the way you buy health insurance. AmeriHealth believes the more you know about your options, the less stress you'll feel. No one cares more about keeping New Jersey healthy, and no one is doing more to keep rates affordable. To learn more about health insurance that pays, visit AmeriHealthNJ.com. AmeriHealth New Jersey is a proud sponsor of Rutgers football.
Back at Brother Jimmy's in New Brunswick. It is week 3 edition of the Kyle Flood Show. Rutgers preparing for Eastern Michigan on what promises to be a very, very special Saturday with the retirement of number 52, Eric LeGrand's jersey. We're going to get a little bit more into it later in the show. Before we get to Eastern Michigan, I wanted to ask you about one guy that is making his mark on the baseball diamond. And I think a lot of fans know a little bit about the story of Patrick Kivlehan, a guy who played 4 years under you guys at Greg Schiano at Rutgers, walked onto the baseball team. Fred Hill thought, well, this guy's got good speed. We could probably use him as a pinch runner. They lose their starting third baseman before the season starts to a torn ACL. Patrick steps in and wins the first Triple Crown in the history of the Big East Conference. He was a great baseball player, obviously, at St. Joe's Montvale, but he goes out, gets drafted in the 3rd round by the Seattle Mariners. Just take a listen. His second season in professional baseball. He won the Northwest League MVP his first year, which is a short season A. Spent the year at A-ball this year, Coach. 303 was his batting average, 16 homers, 90 runs batted in, 74 runs scored, 15 stolen bases, and he had a 28-game hitting streak at one point this year.
Sounds like the stat line of a young Chris Carr.
Not quite. He was between low A and high A, and he's going to start next year at the very least in Double A. First of all, Patrick was back at a practice last year. I happened to be there that day. Take me through the kind of player that Patrick was.
Patrick, I think, publicly was a very underappreciated player, but not from the coaches. And Pat was one of those guys who he played on every special team. He played on every sub package we had on defense. When we played the option teams, he was in a critical spot in terms of defending the option. And just one of those guys that did so many things on game day and did them so well. He's just a really valuable guy in terms of winning football games. And I was fortunate to be the recruiter at St. Joe's when Pat was coming out of high school. And I remember being in Tony Karsich's office one day, and I was waiting for Pat. And they said, the baseball game just ended. He'll be up in a minute. And so he comes up. I asked him how he did, and he said, I just hit a home run. They won the game. So he had hit a home run that day to win the. And I didn't really put it together until a couple years later when he was out there playing for us and Coach Hill. And I'll tell you what, it's hard to say you're not a little bit surprised just because he hadn't played baseball for 4 years. But the type of competitor he is, it does not surprise me at all that he's having success.
I have a story actually with Pat. I challenged him back when we were sophomores, back in 2009, hanging out in Silver's dorms. I challenged him. I said, I bet you I can strike you out because I was reminiscing, of course, on my baseball days when I thought I was going to go to the MLB, but unfortunately, if I took the football scholarship, but I said, I bet you I can strike you out with 3 splitters in a row, and he was like, I dare you to throw one to me, and when I get back up, I'm going to challenge him. I'm still going to strike him out. And I'm not going to live that down. We were really going back and forth at that dorm room that day.
You didn't actually throw one to him, huh?
Nah, I didn't get to throw it to him.
Probably a good decision.
Well, I mean, it is remarkable when you think about it. And as we said, he got promoted midway through this season and should start the year at Double-A for the Seattle Mariners. I have a friend in their organization, and they are very high on him. There's no doubt about that. He's a young man that made his mark on Rutgers football, but might not be too long before you see him in the major leagues. In fact, Rutgers opens up the season next year at Washington State in September, maybe a September call-up. Mariners are home that week, Coach. We'll see.
In Seattle.
We'll see.
Right there.
We'll keep an eye on it. Now, Eastern Michigan. Let's get into some of the things this week. They're coached by Ron English. He's the former defensive coordinator at the University of Michigan. They're 1-1. What have you seen on tape from Eastern Michigan so far?
Very familiar with Coach English. Coach English was on the staff prior to Charlie Strong's staff at Louisville, as we coached against him a few times as defensive coordinator. And he's as good as there is in the business. He knows defense. He was on a couple Rose Bowl teams as the defensive coordinator with Michigan, and they play defense. They play as a team exactly how you would think a defensive coordinator would run his team. They want to be physical. If they've run the ball for in two games, almost 300 yards in 2 games, they take the ball away. They have forced 4 turnovers. They've only given it up 1 time. Their kickoff coverage is doing a great job for them. They have 7 sacks in 2 games. They pressure you. They're a 4-3 scheme, similar to us. Not the same, but similar. And and on offense, they're 4 for 4 in the red zone, getting touchdowns. So when they get down there, they're converting. And I think they got a tough physical football team, and they're gonna challenge you physically the way you think a defensive coach's team would.
Obviously, as you look at the stats, they have been struggling against the run game a little bit. How does that factor into game plan and leading up to it? You see that they're struggling. Do you put in more runs, or you start off more runs, or how does that go into play?
I think for us, we want to be balanced, but we do need to establish the run game, and that's important to the way we play. We don't want to be a one-dimensional offense, and if we can do that, we feel like everything else in the offense is opened up to us. So we certainly will have enough runs in the openers to do that, but we're never going to be just completely one-dimensional. We don't want to do that either.
Coach English was you were mentioning him at Michigan, and the Rose Bowl was the National Defensive Coordinator of the Year back in 2006. A couple of Rutgers tie-ins here. Their offensive coordinator is Stan Parrish, who, of course, was the assistant head coach under Doug Graber back in the mid-'90s. We'll talk to Ray about that on the broadcast this week because he was on the staff when Ray was playing. But also, I'm kind of curious. You've got Lou Toller, and you mentioned him earlier. Played 4 years at Western Michigan. I went back and looked today. Played Eastern Michigan, where he was on the field 3 times, 8 tackles, and a pass breakup, if you're curious.
Okay.
But how much can you lean on him a little bit? Just having a better sense of that league as a whole in Eastern Michigan and what they like to do?
I think what you do is you ask him a little bit about the personnel. What he would remember about their receivers. It's a different quarterback, so I don't know that would be as applicable. But you certainly ask him. It doesn't hurt. But I think you got to watch the film for this year because those players have had an off season to train and get better and have their coaches coach them. And you talk about Stan Parrish. I remember Stan Parrish when he was working, I believe, as the offensive coordinator for Ball State.
Yep.
With Brady Hoke when we played them in the bowl game that year. So we have some familiarity with Coach Parrish, even though I don't know him personally. He certainly has a great reputation as an offensive coordinator.
So if you find a little tidbit from somebody, do you expose them a little bit on the field right away with them?
You try to use every advantage you can gain. You know that. As a defensive lineman, you used to cheat the count all the time.
I
remember it. No, I remember it from practice.
I remember those hands to the face, too.
Well, we've got some phone callers online. Let's get right to them. And we're going to start with Brian down in Washington, D.C. Brian, you are on the Kyle Flood Show. What's up, Brian?
Hey, nothing much. Thanks for having me on.
All right, all the way from D.C. You must have a question for Lorenzo Waters.
What's up, Brian?
Well, first of all, Coach Flood, I think you've done a fantastic job, and I think everyone in the Rutgers community is just very proud about how you represent Rutgers and the state of New Jersey. So thank you for that.
I appreciate that, Brian.
And my question to you is, what is the most important lesson that you learned last year as a first-year coach?
I think I think the most important lesson you learn as a first-year head coach is that every game is unique. And the issues of one game, if you spend so much time looking back, you're not spending enough time looking forward. And now when you get to the game, you're not ready. And I think I was fortunate last year to have 3 former head coaches on my staff. And they were tremendous in terms of talking to me about the ebbs and flows of a season and making sure you're not just correcting the mistakes, but moving forward. Correct the mistakes and move forward. And I think after doing that for a year, I'm much more comfortable doing it now in my second year.
Brian, we appreciate the phone call. Let's next go to Chad in Highland Park. Chad, thanks for joining us on the Kyle Flood Show.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Great.
What's going on?
Congratulations on the win last week. I want to congratulate Eric as well on your impending jersey being retired. And so looking forward to that. Just a couple of questions off the beaten path. I was at the game on Saturday. I was wondering what happened to the tradition of carrying the hatchet and then running to the corner of the end zone and then burying it in the wood there in the corner. I didn't see them do that on Saturday. And then the other thing I wanted to ask, Coach Flood, have you ever seen a team punt on third down twice in a game?
I actually have a great story for that second question. But I believe the idea of carrying out the axe and then putting it in the stump was something we did for one season.
Yeah.
And I don't remember exactly which season it was. It was probably 3 years ago.
I think it was 2009, Coach.
2009. Okay, Eric's saying 2009. So we did actually do that just for 1 year. And I'm not sure why Greg at that point decided not to do it, but I appreciate you remembering it. I know I think my kids enjoyed it. They liked it. We still do carry the axe out onto the field every game, and we will always do that because that's a symbol of our program that I think is very important. You talk about the quick kicks, and I would tell you this: in the 1988 Catholic League championship game of St. Francis Prep versus Monsignor Farrell at St. John's.
Wow!
My high school coach Vinny O'Connor quick kicked on third down. And it was early in the game, and we were backed up, and it completely flipped the field and changed the entire shape of that half of the game, and we ended up winning 10-7 in double overtime.
Wow.
I've got the videotape in my office, Eric, if you'd like to see it. But that's a true story.
And to be fair, in those 2 spots last week, it was not a bad play at all.
You know what? I have always had an appreciation for it because it's something that my high school coach has done from time to time, and he's certainly got a lot more wins than I do. So when I see him do it, I know it must be a pretty good idea.
Well, we'll take another time out. We've got more time for your telephone calls at 855-FLOOD-44. That's 855-356-6344. We've yet to get a question here in person. Got a shy crowd tonight. Make sure you come up front and say hello, and you can tweet us your questions at @RFootball. Stay with us. More to do. This is the Kyle Flood Show.
Excuse me, is that your Diet Pepsi?
Sofia Vergara. Yeah, this is my Diet Pepsi. I love Diet Pepsi.
Do you love every sip?
Nothing is better than drinking a refreshing Diet Pepsi and just reveling in its crisp, delicious taste.
Well, you know what they say. If you love something, let it go. And if it comes back, it was meant to be.
So I should set this Diet Pepsi free and wait for it to come back. Then it'll be more delicious than ever. Would you hold my Diet Pepsi for me?
I'd love to.
Thank you. What happens now?
Go, get out of here. It can't come back to you if you're standing next to it.
Thanks, Sophia. I'll wait for you, Diet Pepsi.
The only thing better than an ice-cold Diet Pepsi is a free ice-cold Diet Pepsi.
Love every sip at DietPepsi.com.
This is the Rutgers IMG Sports Network.
What's up, Rutgers? Y'all ready for some football? Brother Jimmy's in New Brunswick is your headquarters for Scarlet Knight football, as well as your home for the Jets, Giants, and all your favorite NFL teams. With over 30 HD TVs, we serve up all the NFL action on Sunday and Monday nights, with amazing food and drink specials all game long. So come on down to Brother Jimmy's and put some South in your mouth. For reservations and event information, visit us at BrotherJimmy's.com. Brother Jimmy's Barbecue, located at 5 Easton Avenue, New Brunswick, New Jersey. See y'all soon.
No matter what you earned your undergraduate degree in, an MBA from Rutgers Business School will help you build your brand and get you the skills you need to succeed in a tough job market. Rutgers MBA graduates get jobs. U.S. News & World Report recently ranked Rutgers among the top 20 business schools in job placement. With convenient locations in Newark, New Brunswick, Jersey City, and Morristown, Rutgers Business School offers flexible and convenient options to help you pursue your MBA full or part-time. Become part of Rutgers' passionate network of more than 30,000 business school alumni. Think MBA, think Rutgers MBA.
One and one Rutgers this week, hosting 1-1 Eastern Michigan out of the Mid-American Conference. Chris Carlin, Eric LeGrand, Coach Kyle Flood, back on the Kyle Flood Show here at Brother Jimmy's in downtown New Brunswick. We're taking your telephone calls for the next 15 minutes or so at 855-FLOOD-44. And we've got a call on the line, and that is Mike in Cedar Grove. Mike, what's going on?
Hey, guys, how you doing?
Good.
Eric, I'm looking forward to this weekend with the big festivities, and I'm very anxious to hear what the surprise is.
That's what I like to hear. Thank you.
I had a question for Coach Flood. Coach, I understand that you have Lowry working a little bit at center, and I'm just hoping there is nothing wrong with Batim Bujari. Is he good to go for Saturday?
If I told you, I'd have to kill you.
Well,
no, I think
you're pretty.
I heard a story from a gentleman by the name of Rick Trickett, who's been an offensive line coach for a long, long time and very successful. And he told me a long time ago that you can't have too many guys on the team who can snap. And if you ever run out in a game, you're in big trouble. So Antoine is a guy who volunteered for that job, and he wants to work in there. And I think he's done a good job so far. He's taken to the position a little bit and getting a little bit better every day.
Couple of other notes for Eastern Michigan coming in. You know, they're a team that has a running back in Bronson Hill. Now, last year, in the second half of the season, he took over and was averaging about 6.5 a carry. Had a very good second half of last season. So far, let's see, in their opener, had 101 yards, a couple of touchdowns against Howard. Take us through their offense a little bit and what Stan Parrish likes to do.
They're similar to us in terms of wanting to run the football. They play the game in really 12 personnel for the most part, which is one back and two tight ends. And they can get in a lot of different formations doing that. And some of those formations look like pro-style formations, and some of those formations look like spread sets. And he makes you defend the whole field. But it starts with being physical. And they want to be a physical football team. They want to run the ball the way we do, and I think they're determined to do it.
How important do you think it is now for the defensive line then to maintain their gaps? Can you talk a little bit about how important when they're running the ball like that it is to maintain the gaps so people don't get overtaken?
I think it's critical, and you know a lot more about our defense, I think, than most people do or the average fan does. And there are going to be times where we're going to play static defense and guys are going to hold their gap, and there's going to be other times where we're going to move our front and give them opportunities to penetrate through their gap. They still have gaps to take care of, but we're trying to get them through the line of scrimmage so they can make plays in the backfield. But whichever way you do it, winning the line of scrimmage is critical, because the team that wins the line of scrimmage, they have the opportunity to impose their will on the other team.
Exactly.
We can take more questions, as we said, 855-FLOOD-44, and also just Twitter. You can tweet them at @RFootball. New quarterback in Tyler Benz for them, 210 yards, a couple of touchdowns against Howard. They lost 45-7 at Penn State this past week. Actually got out 7-0 because you mentioned the defense taking it away. 4 turnovers they've forced so far. They are a bit of an opportunistic group.
They are, and on offense they've only given it up one time. And when they did get it from the team in Pennsylvania, they picked it up and they scored. And I think they are an opportunistic defense. I think they play extremely hard. They will pressure, maybe not quite as much as we do, but they have the pressures in their repertoire. And we're well aware that we need to play at a high level to make sure that we want to know.
Can you talk a little bit about how important turnovers are going to be in a type of game like this?
I think they're important in every game. And taking the ball away and securing the football, to me, is one of the signs of toughness in your football team. And when you can go out there and cause fumbles, and sometimes those fumbles are the result of a big hit, sometimes those fumbles are the result of a second-man strip. There's a lot of ways to get them, but I think when you can get them, you change field position, you change momentum, and ultimately you change the game.
Coach, I want to talk a little bit about the atmosphere this past week in the opener against Norfolk State. First of all, first thing you mentioned in your post-game news conference to student section, They sold out the student tickets. They were loud. They were into it, and that was an early game. A lot of times those 12 noon games, it's hard for me to make it for a 12 noon kick.
Well, I know the student body is college kids love being up early. That I've come to realize over the course of many years. So to have them out there for the 12 noon game was just tremendous, and I thought they were great from the very start. I mean, they were into it. They were loud. They essentially forced a delay of game when we had them backed up in the student section area of the stadium, and that's the home field advantage. And what I said to the first-year students when I had a chance to address them the week before is, you are the 12th man. You are the home field advantage. It's not about the scoreboard or the stadium or the bricks and mortar. It's the people in there, and how rowdy can you be? And the more rowdy they are, the better our home field advantage gets. And they were tremendous last week, and I'm looking forward to seeing them again this week. We gave them an extra hour this week, so we're going to start the game at 1, I believe, and I'm sure they're going to be there.
And as we're talking about the fans, can you tell us all about how the fans get when you hear that double sound when that punt is blocked, and how that swings the momentum right there, wakes everyone up in the crowd?
Nothing makes me happier when our punt block team is out there and you hear the double thump.
Yeah.
And my only criticism of that play was what we didn't scoop and score. Which is what we want to do. We want to score on special teams. I think when you play great defense, you score on defense. When you play great special teams, you score on special teams. We were able to score on special teams in the first game, and then we didn't do that this time. So we're pleased that we blocked the kick, but I think after that, the blocking of the punt is just the beginning of the play. Then we got to get somebody to knuckles on the ground, scoop it up, and get everybody else to block so we can get it in the end zone.
This is something I've been curious about the last several years because Rutgers has been so proficient at it. When we've had great ones over the years, and Devin McCourty and guys like that who get in there. When you have to pick the new guys, the next line of guys that are going to be your punt rushers, is it just speed? Give me the sense of what goes into the selection process of these 3, 4, 5 guys are going to be our best options to try to do that.
There are a lot of specific drills that we do during training camp, circuits that we call them, and we have to teach them first, or else you never really get a gauge of who can be good at it. But once you teach the drills, then we take the stopwatch out there and we time them, and we try to figure out who are the guys on the team that have the best chance of getting home because of the time. The reality is a great operation by the long snapper and the punter that can protect almost any kick. Mm-hmm. And we had one in the game last week where Leonte Crew came completely clean to the block point, and the operation was so good that it was the best one they had all year, and they got it off. And that can happen, but that operation is not perfect all the time. And if that operation is just a little bit off, we're going to have somebody there, and we're going to have a chance to block it. And I don't think it's complicated. I think the key to it is this. When that ball is snapped, every player on that front line has to believe that they're the one that's going to block the kick. And if they really believe that, and they will come off the ball the way we train them to, we'll get somebody home.
Does the same type of mentality go into who's going to be the kickoff returner and the punter also, the punt returner, how they catch the ball and also how they explode right after they catch it, or how they read the blocks? Do you do certain drills in training camp also to get them ready for that? We do. There are certain drills you do for the kick returners and the punt returners, and a lot of times there's overlap between the two. I do think with that skill, though, there is a little bit more of natural ability comes into play, and guys like Jeremy Deering, guys like Janarian Grant, they've been doing it for a long time. Last year, a guy like Mason Robinson, I mean, it just seemed like Mason was catching punts from the time he was in kindergarten, it looked like, when he would be out there. It was so effortless to him to catch them. So I think there's a little bit more natural ability that may go into that, but you still have to train him the right way and make sure you're doing it consistently.
One more time out, and we'll wrap up. We'll also discuss a little bit more about Eastern Michigan and about the big ceremony at halftime on Saturday, the retirement of Eric LeGrand's number 52. Stay with us. This is the Kyle Flood Show.
You may already know that AT&T is the nation's fastest 4G LTE network. And now independent research has confirmed that AT&T 4G LTE is also the most reliable. Whether you're connecting with family or getting the job done, you want a wireless network you can count on. AT&T, the nation's fastest and now most reliable 4G LTE network. Rethink possible. AT&T reminds you to never text and drive. It can wait.
Speed claim compares national carriers' average 4G LTE download speeds. Reliability claim compares data transfer completion rates on nationwide 4G LTE networks. 4G LTE not available everywhere.
Rutgers football fans, it's time to join the 1,200-plus members of the Rutgers Touchdown Club in supporting Rutgers football 365 days a year. To become a member, please visit us at RutgersTVClub.com. Your membership includes regular meetings with Rutgers football coaches, discounts from local vendors, bus trips and giveaways, and a whole lot more. It's time for you to show your Rutgers spirit by joining the Touchdown Club today. Also, please support the team by purchasing 50-50 chances prior to each home game in the stadium parking lots. Visit us at RutgersTVClub.com for more information. Go Rutgers!
This is the Rutgers IMG Sports Network.
This commercial is brought to you by Brother International, the makers of fax, printers, multifunction printers, scanners, sewing, and embroidery machines. Brother is always at your side.
You can make business cards with your name, print from hiking, hang and frame, sew some shades, block the sun, keep out creepy peeping toms. With Brother at your side, always good times. You got a brother at your side, and whatever follows always ends up in good times. You can make a basket cover for your cat, another for his brother, so they both match. No more mess, make the best label on relief that stress. Always undercover and always around. 106 years, better keep on counting. You got a brother at your side, and whatever follows always ends up in good time. With the brother at your side, with the brother at your side.
Plenty of former Scarlet Knights, and I should say they'll always be Scarlet Knights, will be in attendance this coming Saturday when Rutgers host Eastern Michigan. And at halftime, number 52 of Eric LeGrand will be retired. We're talking during the break here on the Kyle Flood Show about the New England Patriots playing tomorrow night, otherwise known as Rutgers North. And those guys will all be down on Saturday. Devin McCourty, Steve Boharness, Duron Harmon, all those guys.
Logan's
Ryan.
coming back. All those guys are coming for the game. We spoke to a bunch of them.
Mark Harrison, too.
Mark Harrison's coming down. So that's exciting. And we've got some other guys, too, who are going to be back. Joe Martnick's going to be back. We saw him this week. I saw Wayne Warren at practice this week. So I'm thinking he's going to be at the game this week. Alex Silvestro is going to be at the game this week. Mason Robinson. So we got quite a few of Eric's former teammates that are coming back for the celebration.
That's actually, means a lot to me, too, because they're coming back for, the game and the celebration. These are the guys that I played with, was out there. As I was going to talk to the team tomorrow, those are guys I never got to play with, but I got to tell them how important it is to be a Rutgers football player. And just to see that my former teammates, all the guys I joked around with, the locker room conversations coming back, means the world to me.
All right, so did you write a speech? How did you handle this? What are you going to do?
Well, I got something in mind. Of course, I had to go over some points that I want to get across and out to everybody. So I thought about it for a long time yesterday. I was with my foundation and everything. So I think I'm prepared for it. I'm ready to go.
I can't wait to see it. Now, I'm going to have to see your part of it on video.
You're going to be up.
I'm going to be a little bit busy at halftime.
Yeah, you got a team to handle, Coach.
I do, but I'm going to be out there for the beginning part of it. I'm looking forward to starting it off, and then I'll run up the tunnel, and I'll get to the locker room in plenty of time to do what I need to do, and then I'll get a chance to catch it all on videotape, hopefully afterwards.
And it is going to start right as halftime comes on Saturday, so make sure you stay in your seats for that. And I'll tell you what, it's going to be exciting. There's no doubt about it. And you think about what this young man has meant to this program ever since he got here back in 2008. I mean, you knew what kind of a leader he was before the injury, and certainly, guys like me, I didn't know him as well before the injury, but you really learn a lot about this guy and why it's so hard to root for him, or so easy to root for him, I should say.
There are certain people that come into your life that change your life. And Eric's one of those people. And Eric was one of those people before anything happened up at Giant Stadium. But since that happened at Giant Stadium, it's almost been exponential. Because not only has he affected the lives of the people here in the Rutgers community, he's really affected the lives of people worldwide.
Do you ever think about that? The impact that you've had, not only here, but everywhere?
Sometimes, like I said, when I read my Twitter and my Facebook, I get to see, how many people I affect. But when I go out in public and everyone comes up to me just wishing me well, and saying you're that Rutgers football player. You know, that really means a lot. Everyone knows who Rutgers is and what we are about. So knowing that I was taught the right way coming here and I can represent this university the right way, honestly means a lot to me. And as the more longer I'm here, it means I'm getting older.
Well, your birthday was last week. Happy birthday on Saturday. Boy, it promises to be a terrific afternoon. We're looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it.
And someday when I grow up, for my birthday, I'm going to hang out with Gabriel the jeweler as well.
That's right. That was last week. He missed the show. He's not going to let that one go, Eric. Not going to let that one go. Well, we'll see everybody on Saturday at High Point Solution Stadium. If you don't have your tickets, 866-445-GO-RU or tickets.scarletknights.com. We're retiring Eric LeGrand's number 52, the first jersey in 144 years of Rutgers football to ever be retired. For Eric LeGrand and the coach Kyle Flood, I'm Chris Carlin. We'll see you this week at The Point.
Be there.
You've been listening to The Kyle Flood Show, live from Brother Jimmy's in New Brunswick. The executive producers of the Rutgers IMG Sports Network are George Pine and Ben Sutton. Associate producers Joe Potter, Chris Ferris, and John Willie. Network manager Brad Law. I'm staff announcer Carl Shannon. Special thanks to Rutgers Athletic Director Julie Herman and the staff and management of flagship station WCTC.